It's the Full Force News Burst, brought to you by Generals Joes Reborn.com with me, Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80. On today's show, I will be chatting with the men behind the brand new book Kickstarter, Total Action Force: The Battle Years. So let's get stuck in, shall we? Okay then, next up we have two gentlemen who need no introduction. But I really should, shouldn't I? So here are the two likely lads behind the brand new Kickstarter book, Total Action Force: The Battle Years, and they are ready to tell you all about it. Oh yeah, and they're also Full Force presenters, but that would be a conflict of interest and you can't prove it anyway, so whatever. Paddy Lennon and Brian Hickey, thanks for coming on to chat about the book, lads. How are we doing?
Doing great. Doing absolutely fantastic. And I know we've so many comics that we need to catch up on with the Comics Burst, but, to hell with them. We're talking about Total Action Force: The Battle Years tonight. Woohoo!
Brian has had chocolate, hasn't he? Or he's had some sort of boosting sugar scenario.
It's his 17th coffee of the day, I think.
I've just dived into 57 issues of Battle Action Force, and I am going mental here with the amount of awesomeness I've just consumed in the past 8 hours today. So
well, I feel I can imagine that has definitely added to this explosion of enthusiasm, but that is not a bad thing. And Paddy, how are you doing, my good sir?
Good, as always. Busy and trying to keep a lot of plates spinning at the same time, but good.
Right. You guys must be really excited to launch the campaign today, but more on that a bit later on. For those who haven't heard about this particular book yet, what is it about and what can we expect to see?
Myself and Brian, ever since we've started working together on doing these, action figure books, one of the things we've always kind of wanted to do was to do an Action Force book. I think it was probably one of the first things we discussed the first time we met in person, Brian, was that we wanted to get an Action Force book done at some point, just because we're both huge fans of the toys and the comics. So it's something that's kind of been at the back of our minds for quite a long time, probably about going on 7 years now at this stage. So we kind of thought, we kind of have to do it. If it's going to be done, we kind of have to do it now and get it done and get that scratched off the list of projects you want to get to at some point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why we decided to do it this year, We
wanted to do something that's obviously hasn't been done before. I mean, there are Action Force books out there, and, we have to give an old nod to Jim Marshall and the various publications he's put out on the subject. What can you do that hasn't kind of been done before? How do you tackle it in a different way? So what we figured is there's two components to the Action Force story, really. There's the comics Battle Action Force, which would have been a major marketing tool. And then, of course, there's the toys. And when we started looking at kind of both components of it, we realized, that they're obviously very integrated, but there's a bigger kind of Action Force story there from its inception right through to its ultimate demise.
Death.
And there's a break point there in the middle where the comic license shifts from Battle over to Marvel, from IPC over to Marvel UK. So we figured there's a great opportunity here to delve into the story of Action Force like it's never been done before. So this isn't just some cursory information that anyone can look up online. That's not what this book is. This book is a very, very in-depth history into the brand, starting with Palatoy, and then how that expanded out of there. We're going to talk to, and we have spoken to, staff members at Palatoy who helped create Action Force.
Oh, brilliant.
The marketing agency that helped develop the campaign around the actual brand itself, and then right up to IPC magazines who had the license to produce the stories, to create the stories, to help market the brand. And we're even talking to the comic book creators, those who are still alive. So that's both on the writing side and on the art side. And then really the goal here is to have the most comprehensive Action Force story right up to that ending where the license basically passes from IPC over to Marvel UK. And really that's a separate volume then from the Marvel UK years onwards. That's a whole volume 2. We're not going there yet.
Yes, yet.
We've got to get volume 1 done first. But we're really, really excited about it. It's the Action Force story like you've never seen it before. brilliantly written, very thoroughly researched, and brought to life with hundreds of photographs of the toys, of the dioramas,
Lovely
showcasing
stuff.
the toys like you've never seen them before. And my favorite bit, with licensed usage of comic book art from Battle Action Force.
Got a license to kill. Nice. I like that. That's amazing. So how much of a pain in the butthole has that been?
Do you know, it hasn't actually been a pain at all. I mean, this is something we wanted to do right, and we didn't want to run the risk of upsetting anybody. We didn't want this to be seen as kind of like a pirate project. It needed to be legitimized in some way, shape, or form. And it's a documentary. Really everything we're doing falls under the kind of the fair use sort of legal copyright guidelines.
Right.
But at the same time, we don't want to upset Hasbro. We don't want to upset Rebellion Publishing, and they're the big stakeholders when you look at the bigger Action Force brand. So we reached out to both parties. We're very transparent with them about what we wanted to do, and and that they were surprisingly really agreeable to what we were proposing, and we were able to get the necessary permissions, which means we can go out loud and proud talking about what we're doing, and we don't have to worry about any kind of lawsuit, which is great for backers, by the way, because it's not like the plug on this is going to be pulled because of any lawsuit. The reality is that we're doing this with full disclosure to the Action Force stakeholders.
Full force,
so
basically.
It's a great place to be.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned the writing aspect a little bit before we went into that, and Paddy, you've taken on that obviously side of the project. You've had to fill in a few gaps as well in some of it. I mean, how much of a challenge has that been since you started the book? Yeah,
the big problem is that very little of this, the history of the toy line, mainly what I'm dealing with, the portion of the book I'm writing is the history of the toy line and the interviews of the Palatoy designers. And very little of that stuff survives in an easily accessible format. Obviously, there's some paperwork in the V&A Museum in Bethnal Green, but it's never been kind of collated, and it's not really publicly accessible to anybody, especially when you're locked down and not able to leave a 5 kilometre radius of your house. Like myself and Brian are for the last 3 months. And, it's not collated anywhere online. Various different websites have various little bits and pieces of the story. There being Blood for the Baron, Yo Joe, there's various interviews with different people that were done over the years. You've interviewed former Palatoy staff and Full Force. Bob Brecken has done interviews and so on. So really it was trying to find as much of the stuff as possible and kind of collate it into a coherent whole and a timeline to make this as comprehensive as we can make it.
Yeah, and you've also you're doing stuff for unreleased aspects of the brand as well, aren't you? So you kind of are you having to make some stuff up in there? I mean, how's that working?
Yes. So the way we're doing the toy line coverage of the book is I'm doing a series of articles about the history of Palatoy, the history of Action Man and the development of Action Force, articles on each of the years, what was released in each of the years of the toy line, between Series 1, Series 2 and Series 3. And then for the kind of creative part of it, we're doing biographies for all of the Series 2 characters. So the characters who would have obviously been in the Battle Action Force comic. So, your Z Force, your Red Shadows, your Q Force, Space Force and SAS, all those characters getting biographies based on what was in the comics, obviously, but expanded, because sometimes those biographies from the comics are literally only 15 words long.
Yeah, like a paragraph or a sentence or something.
Yeah, you have the name and their birthplace and their specialties.
He's not a nice man, Baron Ironblood, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Something along those lines. They're not exactly very expansive. So what I'm doing there is, although I'm basing it on what was done obviously in the comics and paying attention to what was done there, I'm expanding those where they need to be expanded. Because some of them, a couple of them are only SAS Stalker is literally, his entire biography is less than 30 words long.
Yeah, pad that out a bit.
Yeah, so we have to pad it out and use stuff that makes sense for those. So
has Brian's knowledge of the comics ever kind of come up in those kind of options? Because obviously we do the Disorder of Battle, don't we, Brian? And where you've got, say, a little bit of, I don't know, lean information on a character that have been in comics. So have you been able to tap Brian for any of that kind of comic knowledge at all?
I only talk to Brian on Full Force podcast recordings.
Oh, great! 6 a week. Okay, cool. So 6 times a week you talk to.
This is the only book project that's ever been completely organized via Facebook Messenger.
Amazing.
I joke. Actually, I haven't because I've been reading the stuff myself.
Yeah.
You know, it's been I'm one of those people where my if I'm left alone, I'll get the work done. That's kind of way that's the way I like it when I'm writing or whatever. Yeah. So that's I just kind of lock myself in my office here for a few days every week and get it done that way. You know,
lock yourself in the cabin and go. Get to work.
You know, bash all the walls around me here.
Repaint. Right. So yeah, okay, that's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've done with some of the kind of the characters and the vehicles and some of the unreleased stuff as well. Obviously, which I'm sure we'll probably hold for now in terms of information. But I'm really looking forward to what you guys do there. So Brian, the photography in the book is second to none, and I expected nothing less, obviously. You make these action figures and vehicles look absolutely superb. How much work is it? And I imagine also fun for that actual process. I mean, how long does it take you to set up one of these dio shots?
Well, I mean, firstly, it's loads of fun. I don't even see it as work. I mean, I have a lot of fun doing that. You know, I basically quit my day job back at the end of 2019 so that this is something that I could do full time. And for anyone who's been kind of following myself and Paddy, you know, on social media, they'll be aware that we have a separate kind of project, you know, on the back burner with kind of, you know, with using Kenner Star Wars toys.
Yeah. And those are amazing as well. Jeez.
That was a creative challenge to try and see, well, what could we do with, you know, action figures of 5 points of articulation, and could we, you know, get visually really good, you know, action poses out of these figures? And
yes, was the answer.
Great scenes, and developed like a process for building dioramas really quickly. You know, going through that. So that was like, you know, 2 years of photography. Pretty much, you know, nearly every day, you know, assembling dioramas very quick from junk that I could lay my hand on, and you know, some very minimal arts and crafts, kind of, you know, paint stuff up really rough, really quick, get it in the shop, set it up, light it, click, go. I'm making it sound easier than it is, you know, because sometimes when you go click and go and then you look at it and go, that's
yeah, maybe another 600 clicks.
Go back in and recheck it.
I remember seeing one of your shots, and it was one of those things where you're looking at all the little items in the foreground and the background, and you're going, all right, that's amazing, because he's used it's like one of those like contact lens cleaner little.
Oh yeah, thing. Little contact lens containers.
Like, I was like, that's a contact lens container to clean. I was like, that's incredible. And then the other one you did where you recreated, I think it was like either walls inside the Death Star or panels inside a ship or on the outside of the Death Star, where it was like the white kind of containers with all of the different like detailing on it, but they're like in packaging plastic and stuff like that, and it's just insane to see when you put it up there and you look at it and like initially you're like, oh, that's amazing, that is like exactly what was in the film, and then you look closely and you're like, no, that's something you get in packaging when someone sends you something really important. It's incredible what stuff you were using, like really ingenious. So
I actually have a massive pile of rubbish over there that I just pick from when I'm setting up dioramas. I'm actually not even joking. It's nicely organized pile of rubbish, but it's there. So really, with the Action Force book, it's taken all that kind of stuff that was developed, you know, in terms stylistically with the Star Wars shoots, and applying that to, again, 5 points of articulation figures, which when you get into it, when you look at them closely, you know, through the lens, and you start to work these figures and the various accessories into the dioramas, you realize how brilliantly designed these figures were.
Yeah.
And And it's something that's very easy to just kind of overlook, you know. But when you really look at them and you look at the detailing and the sculpting, you look at the paint applications from Palatoy, and Paddy talks about the paint applications on the Hasbro vehicles that came over to here, and what the creative team at Palatoy were able to do with paint applications is fantastic. It's not that it's complicated. It's really simple, but really creative and really effective.
Yeah.
We're talking about creative geniuses. And that's another thing with this book is not only are we telling the Action Force story, we want to make sure that the people themselves who are involved in that, both on the Palatoy side and on the comic side, that they get due credit for who they are and what they do. Like you take on the G.I. Joe side of it, everybody knows who Larry Hama is. They know what his role is.
I've heard the name.
On the Action Force side of it, not everybody knows who Jerry Day is.
Yeah.
And like he is a comics legend. He's as much of a legend as Larry Hama is, if not even more so.
Yeah.
When you think of some of the amazing properties he's created. So we want to make sure that these guys like, Jerry Day, like, James Nicholas, that they're getting a shout out for what they achieved on the comic side of it. And then on the, even on the Palatoy side of it, we know Bob. I mean, Bob's very active, in the community on Facebook, and he goes to the conventions. But there's other colleagues of Bob's there, like Roger Morrison or John Barnacle, that were really, really important in the development of Action Force. And we want to make sure they're getting getting a shout out as well for what for their contribution to the brands.
Absolutely.
I went totally off the subject of photography there, but yes, the photography is great fun. Don't see it as work at all.
It's got some pictures in there. It's great. And then let's talk about everything other than that. No, that's great, mate. That's fantastic. Well, now actually, you can take us through some of the details of the actual campaign, if you could. What's the initial funding goal, and what can we expect for each pledge level, please?
Grand. So our initial funding goal is €27,000.
Nice.
We're doing it all in euro because this is a European Union,
So what's that in dollars? 250 trillion, right?
I think it'd be about $35,000.
Paddy with the Brexit hit on me, a man living in the United States of America.
And that basically, the 27,000 it's going to cover the cost of producing and shipping, licenses, Kickstarter fees on a minimum order quantity of 250 copies of the book.
Cool.
So we've done multiple quotes, different different page lengths, different sizes, all that sort of stuff, and working out how much this is going to cost us to do. So that will give us 250 copies of a 176 page hardcover.
Wow.
This is a coffee table book.
Sounds like a coffee table.
This is a serious kick-ass book. This is not a paperback. This is a beautifully printed, bound, hardcover book. This is something, if you're a collector, you've got to get this.
Okay.
This is a premium product. This is not a standard kind of softback book. This is it's an oversized coffee table piece.
Awesome.
And it will be, in terms of page length, it'll be the size of Total Retaliation and Total Hacks put together as well.
Yeah.
In terms of page length. So, but a similar kind of size.
It's a chunky old boy by the sounds of things.
Chunky old fella. Yeah. So, in terms of pledge levels and so on, we have 6 options. First, basic option is your €10, which is about £9, about $12, which is just our Z-Force Infantry pledge level, which is just basically thanks, and we'll put your name in the book as a Kickstarter backer in our contributors page.
Nice.
In order to get a copy of the book, the basic there is going to be €120, cool. Which is our Kraken level. And that's a book shipped to wherever you're living. So that's the book plus shipping. We've kind of included the shipping cost in the cost of the pledge levels just to make it clear for everybody so that it's fair to everybody in saying, look, €120 gets you the book and it'll be delivered to your house.
Brilliant.
At 140, it's Deep Sea Defender level.
Nice.
Myself and Brian will sign your book and ship it to you.
Oh.
Yep.
I hope everyone gets on that just so he has to sign all those books.
Just so we have to sign 250 copies of the book. Yeah. What we're kind of calling the all-in level is at €170, and that's SAS Squad Leader. We'll give you a signed book an A3 print and a set of 3 photo prints. So the A3 print is courtesy of Eric Aranya, Boss Fight Studio.
Amazing.
Eric did a print for Roll Roll Call about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
First time Boss Fight appeared at Roll Call. And it was a recreation of G.I. Joe issue 1 with the Action Force characters.
Amazing.
And the battle tank. So Eric's been meaning to get that reprinted again because people keep asking him for it, and he's offered it to us as part of the campaign. So if anybody wants to get that print along with a book, they can, that 170 level, euro level. And then the photo prints will be 3 photos of the Action Force toys from the book. I don't think we've really decided which 3 we're going to pick yet.
Yeah.
We'll let people decide that once we have some images from the book to show off, more images. We'll offer people the option of, like, which of these 3 would you like prints of? Which of these 6 photos would you like prints of? And we'll pick the top 3 and let the backers get those. At 240 euro level, that's Hot Jets level.
I love the levels.
We will send you 2 books, just in case you want to get one for yourself, or and one another as a gift, or you want to.
Or do you want 2 coffee tables?
Yeah. For whatever reason. Yeah.
You might have multiple coffee tables. You might have a space in your toilet for a nice big book.
You might have one of those book racks in your toilet and then in your toy room. But actually, we found quite a lot of people ended up buying more than 1 copy of Total Hacks. So we wanted to offer the option just in case somebody wanted a second one, that they can just get it straight away. And then our highest stretch level is at 550 euro level. Ooh. That's the Baron Ironblood level, and that's for retailers or people who own cons or anything. If they want 5 copies of the book to sell in a shop, we'll do you a bulk order.
Nice.
And that's limited to 5 at that level. And like I said, it's just aimed at people who might own a comic shop or so on, who just want to get a few copies in at a cheaper rate so they can sell them on.
Fantastic.
I don't know how popular that pledge level is going to be, but we wanted to offer it just in case someone asks.
Absolutely. Yeah, good to cover your kind of every little option there. What about stretch goals? I mean, what kind of cool stuff can we expect if you push past that initial funding goal?
Well, if we get past that initial funding goal, the very first stretch goal, and I'm really excited. Well, I'm excited about all our stretch goals. We have 3 in total. The first stretch goal is we unlock the Special Weapons team. Now, we are going to unlock Special Weapons Force like they've never been unlocked before. This is going to be really excited about this. So Ray Murphy is a great customizer, and Ray's active if you're in any of the Action Force groups, you've seen Ray's customs out there.
He did that 1/18 scale Sky Striker, I think you shared on the page, Chris, a few months ago, where he actually built a 1/18 Sky Striker.
I remember, it was a beauty. Absolute beauty.
So Ray has basically built a custom Special Weapons Force squad with vehicles using the vintage Palatoy parts.
Wow.
And painted up and decoed up with water slide decals. And they look unbelievable. They look fantastic. It's what the product would have been had they been manufactured and released. So what we'll get then is an additional, I think it's 32 pages into the book, which will just be dedicated to the Special Weapons Force. So that's going to be made up of, on the writing side of it, we're going to have file cards for the whole team. They'll get a full write-up, and then we're going to bring them into action with our diorama photography and just put these guys in the thick of conflict with the Red Shadows, and who knows, maybe with Cobra as well. That's a really exciting stretch goal for me, because I think it's something that everyone in the collecting community knows about Special Weapons Force, and we've seen those kind of unreleased product shots up on the Blood for the Baron site, and Dave and yourself as well at various kind of cons have talked about Special Weapons Force as well. So we know about them, but we've never really seen them in the brought to life in any kind of major way. So that's what we're going to do. 32 pages, Special Weapons Force. Really can't wait, and I really hope we get there with that stretch goal. That's quite a big leap from a minimum funding goal, so we've got to hit 40k to bring Special Weapons Force to life.
Well, I'll make sure that happens. So no, that's awesome. And
I really can't stress how amazing Ray's customs are. He sent us over the images of the first 3 he's finished, which are Fixer, Lightning, and Sniper, and they look spot on. to the photos that Dave Tree took from the
really blown away what you guys showed me of those. Absolutely fantastic. Someone else that's involved as well. I didn't we haven't really spoken about just yet, but obviously your video on the Kickstarter is done by Tony Roberts of Analog Toys, and what a cracking job that was, shall we say. Now he's another kind of absolute Action Force, mega fan as well. What was it like working with Tony?
Tony is one of the nicest guys we've ever had to deal with. He's a lovely fella. He really is. And he was, we discussed our plans for the book with him a couple of months ago. As we were kicking off the research and so on, because we know obviously he's quite an authority on Palatoy as well, and we thought we should touch base with him. But his enthusiasm for it has really blown us away. He's really invested in seeing this book happen, almost as much as we are, I think. So he's been hugely helpful in helping us kind of focus on what we want to cover in the book, and putting us in contact with people in order to interview them or touch base with them, and for the research as well.
Yeah, he's a good lad.
We got in touch with Tony initially just to it was part of our research work, because we know that he's obviously I'm a huge fan of Action Force, and he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the brand itself. Well, as we got talking with Tony on a call, and we're explaining the project about it, or what we intended to do, he was like, "This sounds amazing. This has never been done before," and he actually offered to put the video together for the campaign. So obviously we're massively grateful, and Tony, if you're watching this, thank you so much. I mean, we've said thanks, already, but I just cannot be, grateful enough for his enthusiasm and for everything he's done to help kind of get this out there with the fans.
He's a real ambassador, isn't he, for the brand as well, like a proper good fella. That's fantastic. That's really cool. So it's out today. Kickstarter is live.
We've got some more stretch goals to discuss.
Keep going.
Well, it wouldn't be the battle years if you couldn't fit in some of the Hasbro characters, and battles ran with Action Force right up till November 1986. So there were a lot of Hasbro characters that would have been released in that time period. Yeah. So stretch goal number 2, and Paddy will have to remind me what the actual goal amount is on that. 53K. We're bringing in a lot of new content to focus on the Series 3 Hasbro action figures. So they would have been introduced in the comic from sort of early 1985, and then run through till Battle Action Force finished up in November 86. So that's on the G.I. Joe side, and on the Cobra side, that's a significant amount of additional content in there. So our page count is going to skyrocket up to 256 pages.
Blimey. So it's now not a coffee table book. It's literally a library that you've just made now. Yeah,
or actually our secret stretch goal, if you make over 100K, is we'll send you a new coffee table to fit the book. And everybody a lack coffee table at IKEA and ship them out.
Amazing. So that's at 53K. That's wicked. Okay, cool. I kind of want this to happen because I really want to see all that. I really want you to do all that extra work.
There's a lot in Palatoy Series 3, and obviously those characters all showed up in the comic as well. Yeah. But they don't have those Hasbro figures on Palatoy cards. So people like Duke and Baroness and the Cobra Commander on the Palatoy cards, they didn't get bios at all in their packaging, except for a tiny little postage stamp box on the front of the package that doesn't even give their real name, for example. It just gives their military specialty and place of birth and maybe 2 sentences.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of scope there for us to, feed in stuff from the comics and so on about those characters as well, and give them proper biographies that they didn't get when they were released by Palatoy on the red and yellow cards.
Yeah.
And then obviously we will do usual diorama shots and so on with those figures as well. And then our final stretch goal is at 68,000 euro. And for that, we've reached out to legendary battle artist Ian Kennedy.
Amazing.
To do a cover for the book.
Unreal.
So if we hit that goal, Ian will draw a brand new Action Force cover for the first time in 40 years.
Wow.
for the book.
Wow.
And just to stress, this isn't like your standard kind of convention, kind of sketch cover. Ian will be doing like professional, fully painted cover image, like what he does when he's working for DC Thomas with Commando, or like what he would have done in the past for IPC magazines, for Eagle, the Dan Dare. Think of those Dan Dare front covers. There'd be a lot of detail in it, a lot of characters, a lot of spaceships. It's not a small commission, and that's why it's obviously a particularly high stretch goal for that. But if this really gets a lot of backing from the fans, and we're able to take it that far, Ian Kennedy is on board, and we're talking about it's going to be a serious piece of Ian Kennedy cover art for this book.
Absolutely fantastic, and brilliant news as well to hear that Ian is on board to do that, because I can't wait to see what he can do with that. I really hope it hits that.
We literally spent 3 weeks thinking, what do we commission him to do?
Yeah, that's genius.
What would you use on? What vehicles would you put on it? What characters would you put on it?
You'd give him the entire thing. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You should make a 200,000 stretch goal that is just Ian doing all of the art originally, all the way through it. God, could you imagine that? That would be even more hilarious. Okay, well, that's fantastic. You guys must be really excited, and a bit of nerves probably creeping in today with the launch, but I hope it goes really well. We'll be keeping an eye on it, obviously, and for those watching, there's a link in the description, obviously, for the Kickstarter, so you can get in there and you can pledge as high as you possibly can. Everyone getting in on that retailer thing, even though there's only 5 of them. That brings us to the end of the interview, lads. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking to me about the book. Good luck with everything. Like I said, we have the link in the description. Jump on it if you can. Good luck with everything. Hopefully it will end with you with a funded project and lots of happy, smiling faces.
Thanks, buddy.
That's it for this instalment of the Full Force News Burst. Thank you to my awesome guests, Paddy Lennon and Brian Hickey. See you next time, and as always, Full Force! That's it for this instalment of the Full Force News Burst. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. See you next time, and as always, Full Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.